Hey YouTube, this isn't going to be a review, it's more of a reflection. See, 10 years ago when I was, sadly enough, 14 years old, I used to go to a local comic book store and get comic books. Now, I wasn't really a big fan of like Spider-Man or Batman or any. I never really liked the major comics. I was only interested in like 4 comic book series. This is one of them. Sonic the Hedgehog. Funny enough, it's based off the old cartoon show by the DIC or DiC company. Sounds like Dick. And this comic is actually based off the game Sonic Blast. Now this isn't going to be a review, but I was pawing through some old stuff and I found these old comics and it kind of made me smile. Sonic Blast, official Sega game adaptation, and it doesn't say Genesis, it just says Sega, because this was on the Sega CD as well. See, there's Sonic, there's Tails, and there's Flickies. I think the game was like Flicky, but 3D and played the crap. See, old advertisements. There's the art. See, it's based off the Sonic cartoon where he was like an eco-terrorist. It's a pretty decent comic book series. I never really collected a lot of them, but I was into them. And I got a bunch of them, but I never really like collected enough of them to have like the whole story. I just got the ones that interested me by cover or whatever. This really weird polygonal Sonic and Tails, and there's weird things where you sell a bunch of shit and they give you some weird shit, whatever. Yeah. The other comic book series I used to collect was The Mask. I was really into the movie, and the comics always interested me. Now what really interested me was the fact that the comics were really dark, and I never really got that because I was so used to the movie and how that was. And that's pretty good art. Well, there were 2 sets of comics. There was like a dark and gritty one, and then there was the cartoonish one based off the animated series, but I had both sets. So he's still like silly, but it's really dark and gritty and violent. I had a bunch of these, so you'll probably see another one. A comic book series that I like to really get, and I still kind of do sometimes, is The Simpsons. The Simpsons comics have been going on for 20 years now, since 1993, I think. I've meant to check the dates before you make a video. But The Simpsons comics have been going on for a while, and I don't need to tell you what TV show this is based off of. We'll be crowned King of the Nerds. The stories are kind of basic and just interesting. There's the Futurama crossover. I actually have the big hardback version of it that has like all 4 issues, and I have the first one as like the normal paperback. The art was pretty good. It's not really hard to fuck up the Simpsons art. The stories are okay and even funny a lot of the times. Something I always enjoyed getting were old Simpson comics. Now, I'm not going to show you all of these, just some. This is Bartman, or Bart Simpson comics. They actually released a spin-off series where Bart Simpson does shit by himself. They were entertaining. They were more for younger readers, but I still got them. Homer Simpson as a superhero. These are all about like Bart being a superhero or Bart doing stuff. These aren't really bad. I have a few trade, like the ones where they have like a bunch of issues mixed together. I have a few of them of Bart Simpson, and they're pretty entertaining. Simpsons Futurama crossover. This is actually really interesting and a lot of fun to read. I have the giant hardback cover, as I said. It's really interesting how they got these 2 franchises together, and this first part that takes place in the Simpsons universe is actually a real comic that I owned. Radioactive Man, they spun off the comic book character Radioactive Man. Reading this is like you're supposed to be reading one of the comic books in their universe. Rather enjoyed it. And as you can see, the ad on the back is like Rocky and Bullwinkle or something. 3 all new episodes. It's kind of like the Power Rangers Megaforce and Samurai seasons. They're entertaining, and it has a lot of like humor in it where they'll mention something, but it'll be like dangerous in the future. Like they said like asbestos raps and stuff, or they mention like dead celebrities and stuff like that. And it's a really fun parody of old comics. And the characters are genuinely interesting, like this dude, Mr. Magmo. Futurama had its own comic book series. That's it. This was actually the only Futurama material being made for a few years while the show was canceled. And it got canceled again, so it'll be the only Futurama material being made. The comics were really fascinating. Featured some story like Fry getting the cold, which they did in the TV show as well. And it really did keep with the theme of the series. Some of the comics were actually kind of dramatic, but a lot of them were humorous. And these comics were played down to be for younger audiences, but older audiences can still read them. And like The Simpsons, the art, it's hard to mess up Matt Groening's art style. It's simplistic but enjoyable. I'm going to speed through a lot of these. This is another Mask one. There's one of the ones where he's like dark and serious, see? These are actually the same series. I have a lot of these Mask comics or like Simpson comics where it'll be a big storyline, but I only have like 2 or 3 of the comics, so I'm just like, I'll read the rest of it on the internet, or read about it on the internet. The art style on this one's different. It looks like Superman and fighting aliens or some stuff. Yeah, the art style here is more like gritty but simplistic. I don't know what's going on there. Here's one based off the animated series that they made with, I think, Rob Paulsen as the Mask. The art style is more cartoonish and silly, and the storylines are more like childish. They're not bad, and they're actually kind of enjoyable. I think this parodies movies, Judge Dredd, Star Wars stuff. He's singing. It's general wackiness. This isn't a bad comic. Just, I don't know what that is. But the art's nice, and the stories are simplistic for kids, and Simpsons doing Shakespeare. Yep, that's what it is. These comics were really entertaining. I go to this comic book store every like Saturday or Sunday each week and get like a new comic book. Got more Mask comic books. The Mask is Lady Gaga. More Mask comic books. Oh, what's in here? Now, these were actually my older brother's, and he gave them to me not too long ago. Married with Children. These comic books are based off the popular, or once popular, Fox television series about Al Bundy and his life, his really sad life. The shoe salesman, the redheaded wife, and his 2 kids. The art in this is very weird. Cartoonish, and it kind of matches the style and humor of the later seasons of Married with Children, where it was really kind of cartoonish, like Al would fall off the roof and land on his neck and be alright. Apparently it's Twilight Zone. Or Al's feet would clear out a room, or something like that. There's Marcy. Marcy always kind of made me laugh. Marcy is like a really cartoonish version of that video game tropes lady. Like, imagine her just like ramped up to 1,000 beyond 11. That's what she'd be like. It's kind of humorous. Doctor's got a big nose. This dude looks scary. These comics are entertaining and not bad. They're fun to read every now and then. I have a whole bunch of them, but my brother gave them to me. I always went to that same comic book store to get them, and I never got them because he got all of them. But I have them now, so it makes me feel a lot better. Whoa, jump cut, and I'm back. This comic, or manga, as it's Japanese, is based off the popular anime series. Well, the manga came first, but it's based off this. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! I've actually had this book for 10 years. I've gotten this 2003. I used to bring this with me to school all the time and read it, and I used to collect the issues that it came from. It's called Shonen Jump, and I'd get an issue every month, and I used to read those at school all the time. They were huge magazines, like this thick of manga, and they talk about like video games and stuff like that. I wish I still had them, but I got rid of them years ago. I collected them from 2003 to at least 2008. I had a bunch of issues. They were staggering. You could make furniture with them. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! I always really loved the anime series that was dubbed by 4Kids. I honestly still don't mind the dub to this day. And I'm someone who really hates like dubbed anime, and I'll still go back and watch it. This part of the book was actually based on the first season that never aired in America. It was done by a different anime studio, and they have the rights to that first season, but we still got the comics. It wasn't always about the card game. In fact, the card game doesn't show up until Kaiba's first appearance, which is the next issue, and I don't think I have that issue anymore. The art style is really nice. It has, it's really nice. It matches the art style of the anime series. Yugi himself is a little more meaner in this one, and he always has like horrible punishments for terrible people, and I always kind of like that. Like, he made it so the man's eyes are censored, and it's really graphic sometimes, but never too graphic. Stories are always nice, and I had, at one point of this, I had most of the issues up to the point where they were stuck inside a Dungeons and Dragons style RPG game or something like that. I haven't read this in a while, but I've had this book for 10 years, and kind of made me remember when I was like 14 and I used to really love this series. I played the video games. I had that shitty video game for the Xbox that was like, it was the card game, and one of the big features it advertised was monster fighting, and the monsters just kind of turned and looked at each other, and one blew up, and it was really dull. But I still had it, and I still played it and loved it. I had the Game Boy Advance games, that stupid RPG, the Sacred Cards, and the Eternal Duel of Soul, where the computer would cheat, but it was still a good franchise. I honestly haven't been keeping track of it. I think I stopped caring about, like, I didn't stop caring about it, but I stopped watching the show or really paying attention to the franchise around 2006 or so, when he's in school, and then they started having motorcycles, and apparently now it's him getting possessed by a ghost or something. He's not even in the show anymore. I did see the movie Yu-Gi-Oh! That was released like 2004. Yeah, 2004 it was released. That movie sucked. I actually didn't get to see it in theaters. I had it on DVD, and it was pretty bad, but at the time I enjoyed it. Bobobo, or that whole title that I'm not saying, this is an entire story arc in one manga. I technically didn't get this in 2003 or 2004. I got this a lot later, but I just found it entertaining. The anime series was actually entertaining, and a lot of the jokes had to be changed for an American audience, you know, censorship, and so people will understand what the hell they're talking about. But it was an interesting series, really weird and random. Humor was okay. It could be obnoxious sometimes and kind of annoying, but it was entertaining. It's a shame this show never took off in America, but I kind of see why. The last book I'm going to tell you about is this. What is this? This is The Simpsons, a complete guide to our favorite family. It is the first 8 seasons, condensed, and, well, it tells you about the episodes, stuff you may have missed, like Bart the Lover, like the stuff you may have missed, characters that were introduced in the show, stills from the show, who made it, the general plot, quotes, movie references. This is a really good book. I was and still am a huge Simpsons fan. I've played a lot of the video games. Only like 4 of them are good. I've pretty much watched every episode of the series, sadly enough, even the new ones. And I'm probably one of the first people to admit that not a lot of the newer episodes are that bad. They're actually kind of creative and even kind of funny, but yeah, the show was mostly funny back in the earlier seasons. I'd say like season 3 up to like season 14 was when the show was really good, and then it just started getting downhill. But I'd still watch a lot. I still watch the show every week, and it's still one of my favorites. Plow King. This book is actually really informative, especially before a time when Wikipedia came out. I got this around the time I was 14. I got this like 10 years ago, so there was no Wikipedia, there was no YouTube, and this is pretty, the only thing you had was like fan sites. And this book was really entertaining. It was nice to read all these old episodes. Like all the Itchy and Scratchy shorts. They even describe what happens in the shorts. It's really entertaining. The episode where Lisa's rival, and Ralph, that's the one where Ralph coined the popular phrase, "I bent my Wookiee." Itchy and Scratchy Land, the one with the evil robots, and it's supposed to be like Disneyland. The one with Sideshow Bob being a Republican candidate. Treehouse of Horror episodes were always really creative and well done. And they're still probably the best episodes of the newer seasons. I think the last one they did was like a Paranormal Activity parody. It was really good. See what else we have. Fear of Flying. This book is really informative, and they made a giant version that has the first 20 seasons, like a few years ago. It was really expensive though, but I have the first 3 versions of these books that cover seasons 1 through 8. The second one covers, I think, 9 through 11, and the third one covers seasons 11 through 13. It's still in a box I have with a bunch of books. It was always nice to kind of flip through these books and just kind of reminisce about when I was 14 years old. And the only thing that really mattered was playing Sonic Battle and Mega Man Battle Network and Yu-Gi-Oh cards and getting good grades and stuff. And now it's paying the rent and everything, but it's always nice to actually look through and just remember an easy, simpler time. That's what all those 90s kids on the internet are bitching about. Would I recommend these books, even though this isn't a review and I'm finding a way to close out this video? Yeah, you can still get them. This one you can get for pretty cheap, I think, but you're not having my copy. This is my copy. And the camera is focusing on the dog's face. Well, I'm bored with this now. Goodbye!